Hey YouTube, welcome to another video. In this one we'll be going into making smoke simulations and make sure they look like an object. So not actually using an object as a smoke emitter, but using an object as an effector to create the shape and fill it with smoke. It's a cool effect, you can use it for anything. In my case I use this for this art piece. I created this cool video with it that you just saw. However, I will just be going into the smoke simulation. If you do have any questions towards the other parts of the video that you just saw, then feel free to ask in the comments down below. Now, if you like this video and if you learned something from it, then please leave a like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon for further notifications on future videos that I make. Also, if you make this yourself, then please share it with me on Instagram. It's really great to see. And I want to point out that these files are available on Gumroad for just $2. So if you want to follow along, then go ahead and get them over there. So let's get started.
Okay, so we are in a fresh Blender scene, and I want to point out that I'm using version 2.92. However, it will probably work in older versions. I'm not sure about newer versions though. So first of all, let's select our light and our camera here and just hit X and choose OK to delete. And now let's hit numpad 1 to go into front view. Select our cube here and we are going to scale this up. So S, Z and type in 2 to scale it outwards twice. And let's just rename our cube here to pedestal. Now let's apply the scale. So Control A and apply scale. And let's tap into edit mode. Choose face, select and select the top face and hit I to inset it. Now repeat this step, make it very small and select the face loop and E to extrude inward. Now let's choose edge select and select all the outer edges of our pedestal here, like so. And let's bevel these. So hit Control plus B and you can scroll up and down to increase the amount of segments. And I'm going to go for 3. Give it some roundness here, like so. Now let's just right click it and hit Shade Smooth. This will give us some strange artifacting, but we can go into the object data properties, into normals and check on auto smooth to fix that. Okay, so that's all we need to do for the pedestal. Let's start working on our room here. So I'm going to add in another cube and into edit mode, select everything and then move it up holding Control so it snaps to the grid and align it to the X axis. I'm going to move it down. Oh, wait, I should have done that outside of edit mode actually. So just going to redo that. Yeah, so tap out of edit mode and then move it down like so. And with the origin at the bottom, we can easily scale it up the way we want it. So just hit S and scale it up a bunch, make it really big. And remove the top face there. And let's apply a modifier, subdivision surface, make it nice and round. I'm going to crank this up, this value. Right click the shade smooth. And now I'm going to add in some loop cuts. So Control plus R to add in a loop cut. I'm going to add in 4 on each side, effectively making the cube less round, and that's what we want to get a nice look. I'm just going to increase this a bit more, so S Shift Z to exclude the Z layer here and increase the scale a bit more. Now because it will be in the way, I'm going to go into the object properties, into viewport display and change the display as from texture to wire, so now it won't be in the way anymore. I think I made it too big, so I think I need to scale it down on the Z-axis and on the other axis as well, making it a bit smaller. All right, so let's rename this to room and select both of our objects here and put them in their own collection. And we're going to call this setup. Now let's work on our smoke. So I'm going to add in a new cube here, scale it down, make it really small, and move it upwards inside of our pedestal. Let's call this smoke emitter. And I'm going to go to the object menu here, quick effects, quick smoke. This will set up our scene as a starting point. I'm just going to change the scale of the smoke domain. So S and Z and then G to move it up. And make sure the smoke emitter is entirely within our smoke domain. like so. And now let's animate our cube because we want some extra dynamic look to our smoke. So on the first keyframe, I'm going to hit I and choose rotation. And now let's go to the last keyframe, select our rotation values by clicking and dragging down, typing in 360 times 2 and hitting enter. And make sure to apply it by hovering and hitting I again. Now, if we play this back, it will add some dynamic look to our smoke, a bit of variation. Okay, so now let's import our effector object. I've got this OBJ file, so you choose import OBJ. I will put the link in the description for you guys to download the same model if you want to. And hit OK, and it will be super huge, which is not what we want, of course. So let's just scale it down, S to scale it down. Make it small, so about the same size as our pedestal. Just move it down slightly, so it's slightly within our pedestal. And I'm just going to hit RZ to rotate it towards us so it's facing the camera. Now, let's add in our fluid sim here. So physics fluid, and then change the type to effector. And next up, we need to change a few things. Now, you can tell it's not doing anything. It's not really working. And that's because we need to change a few more things for it actually to work. So select our bust model here. And let's tab into edit mode. Let's go into wireframe. Make sure we have face select on, and then just box select the bottom part of the pedestal like so. And hit X and choose delete faces. Now this will open up our model from the bottom, which is very important, and you need to do this for any object to work with the smoke sim filling. So make sure to do this to any object. And I'm just going to select the entire edge loop here. Holding Shift and Alt. Just selecting all of this, making sure I got everything. I think I missed a part here. Yeah, I did. Okay, so that's looking good. Now, let's scale this on the Z-axis, so SZ, and type in 0 to even it all out. And now we can actually just GZ and pull it down. Something like this. Doesn't need to go too far, but we want to prevent the smoke from leaking out at the bottom. Next up, let's go into the overlays menu and enable face orientation. Now you will see it's blue on the outside and red on the inside. Oh, I need to fix this real quick. So let's just select these edges and hit F to fill it. Yep. So blue means the outside of an object and red means the inside. And I want to switch these up because we need Blender to know that the inside of the object is actually the outside of the object and vice versa. So the smoke will stay on the inside. So select your entire model in edit mode, hit Alt+N and flip the normals. This will effectively change the colors. So red will now be the outside and blue will be the inside. And this will allow the smoke to actually stay in there. Now let's just disable face orientation here. And as you can tell, the model is kind of in the way of our smoke sim. So I'm just going to change the display as from textured to bounce, which will sort of hide the model, but it will still function. So now let's work on our smoke. In the smoke domain, I'm going to change some settings. I'm going to change the divisions to 64 and the time scale to 5 because I want the smoke to move faster. And I'm going to change the bake type there to all, so I can actually bake it. I can save it somewhere, which is very handy in these types of situations. So just choose a safe location here. All right, now let's hit bake. Okay, so I baked the first few frames, and as you can tell, nothing's happening. And that's because we still need to do one more thing to our effector object. So select the bust object again. I'm just going to rename it really quick so I can actually find it in the outliner there. Move all three of these in their own collection, call it smoke. And what we need to change is the surface thickness. If we set this to 1, it will now work properly. So do make sure you actually do this. Now, I'm going to rebake the entire scene. And if we play this back, you will see that everything is working as it should and our object is filling nicely. If you want to increase the resolution or the sharpness of the object, so if you have a more complex shape, you have to increase the subdivisions or the divisions for the smoke. However, this will slow down your bake by quite a lot. In my final render, I used 128, but find something that works for your computer. I used 64 just for the tutorial's sake to speed things up, and it still works pretty decently. Okay, so now let's add in our camera here. So we start working on the visuals. So Shift A, add in a camera, and type in numpad 0 to go into camera view. G and Y to pull it back, like so. And G and Z to pull it up. And center our smoke sim there. And let's go into the camera properties here and change the focal length to 30. I'm just gonna pull it back ever so slightly, like so. And let's go to the first keyframe here, and with the camera selected, let's hit I and choose location. Now let's go to the last keyframe, G, Y, and Shift to pull it inward until we get a position that we like, and then hit I again and choose location again. Make sure to select both of these keyframes, hit T and choose linear interpolation to get a nice constant smooth motion. And now we have a nice zoom going on. Now let's change our render properties here and change it to cycles, because the smoke will look way better in there. I'm going to change it to GPU compute, crank up the samples, turn up adaptive sampling, turn up denoising, and change it to optics. Now for performance, I'm going to change it to 256 pixels per tile, which is faster for my computer at least. And in color management, I'm going to change the look to medium contrast. Now, let's just re-enable the texture on our room here so we can actually see it when working on our materials. And let's start working on our materials. But before we do that, let's just change the world settings from gray to black so there's no light leaking in from our world here. We are going to add all lights ourselves. Now let's go to the shading tab here. Now I'm just going to close off these windows, right click on the edge there, and then select join area and merge them together. And type 0, numpad 0 to go into camera view again. And let's just select our room here and create a new material. And I'm going to call it, obviously, room. Now I'm going to change the color to a orangey, pinkish, reddish color, which I think fit this scene nicely. And I'm going to decrease the roughness to a 0.35. And that actually finishes this material. So nice and easy there. And now for our pedestal. I want to add in this marble material, but we're not going to create that ourselves. We are just going to use this great add-on. So let's go into preferences here and into add-ons and look up Blender Kit and make sure you enable this. This will allow you to import easy materials, which are all freely available. And it will open up this menu up here. So if you click on the eye icon and then on the material icon, you will see materials appearing. So if we type in the search bar now marble and hit enter, it will start loading materials. I'm just going to scroll through these and I found this one, which is very nice. So I'm going to use it. It's the kind of look that I'm going for here. So just drag it and over to your pedestal, release your mouse, and it will automatically apply the material. Super easy. Now let's click on the eye icon there again so we can actually hide the menu. And I want to add in a second material. So let's go into the material menu on the right side there. Select the face on the interior there. Add a new material and let's call it emission, and make sure to hit assign so it actually applies the material there. Now we can crank up our emission from black to white and increase the strength to something like 10, which will give us a nice bottom light lighting our smoke from below. Now if you go into render view, you can actually see you get the light there. But you can also see that we still have the effector object visual in the scene, and we don't need that anymore. And because we baked our smoke, we can actually hide it. So let's toggle the menu and open up these two icons here. Let's just click on these to disable the object in both viewport and in render. And since the smoke is baked, it will still work as it should. And now the object won't be visible anymore, which is what we want, of course. Now, the smoke we will work on a bit later because we are going to add in some lights first so we can actually see the smoke and work with it. So let's go back into layout here, into rendered view, and start adding some lights. First of all, let's add in a spotlight. So Shift A and choose spotlight, and G and Z and pull it up. Nice and easy. Now I'm going to go forward in the timeline so I can actually see the smoke a bit, so I can see what the lights are doing here. And I'm going to increase the strength of the spotlight to 500 watts. This will give us a nice lighting on our object and on our pedestal. And let's add in a area light next. So Shift A, light, area light. And let's go into solid view here because it's very unresponsive, obviously, in rendered view. And let's make sure we can actually see where it's going. So let's move this up, GZ and GY to move it back. Now R and X to rotate it and face it towards the back wall, because this light will only light up our scene and not our smoke. So increase the size to 10 and the strength to like 500 for starters. And I think this is going to be too dark. Yeah, it's still too dark. So if you see camera view, our scene is still way too dark. So I'm just going to hide the overlays there and increase the strength to 1000 so I get a nice visual, maybe even 1500. Yeah, I think 1500 is nice. So I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, so let's go back into solid view here and add some more lights. So Shift A and add in another area light. And let's just G and Y and move it back. Oh, I forgot to turn this on so I couldn't actually see. So enable overlays again, G and Y, and move it towards the camera. And now phase it towards the pedestal. Make sure it's pointing upwards slightly. And this will light up our pedestal. I'm just going to increase the strength to 100. Okay, no, that's way too strong. So let's go down to something like 50 watts. Yeah, that's nice. I'm just going to move it down slightly. And this will give some nice lighting to actually still keep our pedestal nice and visible. Okay, so back into solid view here. And I'm going to go into top view with numpad 7 and add in another area light. Now let's hit G and pull it to the side, somewhere over here. Then hit RX and then rotate it towards the camera, and then RZ and rotate it towards the pedestal. Because we want some rim lighting on the pedestal, we need to shine it on there. So let's just rotate it upwards a bit more. So RXX, and then rotate it upwards slightly. And change the power to like 500 watts. Now we will get a pretty sharp light here, and that's not something I want. So I'm just going to move it upwards slightly and out of our camera view, and then rotate it downwards with RXX again. And I'm going to change the strength here to 1000, make it nice and strong. And this is looking fine. Okay, so let's just duplicate it. So back into top view here, Shift D to duplicate the light, RZ to rotate it, and make sure it's sort of similar as the other one. So just move it, rotate it, sort of line this up like so. And now we have a double rim light from the left and right side, which gives a nice accent to our pedestal and to our smoke actually. So that's looking nice. Just going to increase the spotlight here to 1000 watts because it's still a bit too weak. And I think this is starting to look very nice. So we got the lights going. And like I said, we need to work on our smoke, but we first needed some lights here. So let's go back to shading here and select our smoke domain. Now we want to change the color of our smoke from gray to white because we want fresh, clean white smoke. And we are going to change the density. So let's add in a volume info node, which will make it very thin and wispy, but we're going to fix that really quick. So plug in a color ramp here and plug in a math node and change the math type to multiply and the value to 20 or so. Now let's just pull in the black and pull in the white some more. And this will make our smoke look nice and dense, but still have some contrast in there. And let's just change the value for the math node to 30. So it's really dense and nice and thick smoke. Now, let's make sure we have everything set up so we can actually render it out. So I have the cycles here, GPU compute, samples are up, adaptive sampling is on, and denoising is on. I have performance to 256 and the color management set to medium contrast. And let's go ahead and change the FPS on the output properties to 30. Choose a save location. I'm going to render out a PNG sequence because it's safer. Should your Blender crash, then you can just pick up your render again. And also it's kind of slow, so you could just turn off your computer if you want to. And now let's hit render animation. Okay, so that brings us to the end result again. As you can tell, I added some extra scenes in my version, but we mainly focused on the smoke simulation in this one. So I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something. And if you did, then please leave a like, subscribe, or click on the bell icon for further notifications on future videos that I make. Any of your support is greatly appreciated and helps the channel grow. If you decide to make this yourself, then please share with me on Instagram. It's always super cool to see what you guys make. And I want to point out that the project files for this tutorial are available on my Gumroad for just $2. So hop on over there if you want to get them. See you in the next one.